Welcome, guys, to our next episode where we're going to discuss the Quarry and have a discussion about what we want to see in a new and better Until Dawn game by the Supermassive Games guys. So, Pete, I think what we should do to start this out is just have a quick chat about the Quarry's trailer that just got released and provide some of our own thoughts about whether we think they're going in the right direction from where Until Dawn was, and then from there we'll talk about what we want in our own supermassive games Until Dawn new sequel.
Yeah, I think just to give a little bit of context to our opinions and what we would like from the games, maybe we should talk about our thoughts on the previous ones. I know we haven't played all of them, but we can talk about Until Dawn and some of the Man of Medan games, maybe, just for some context.
Yeah. Sounds good. For me, Until Dawn is the best game. It was the first game, of course, that came out. And there are a lot of things that are wrong with the game, objectively speaking, in terms of dialogue, in terms of script writing, in terms of flaws, in terms of a lot of things. But I think it suits a purpose which it's trying to achieve, and that is simply to provide you with an interactive horror game, which is also quite comedic in some places as well. I think actually the more simplistic you can make it, the better in some sense. So I think when you get to the Dark Pictures anthology, they try to do some new settings, which of course are more detailed. There's more things that interlink with the story, but I feel like they're less successful because I have only played the first Man of Medan game, and me and you've tried to play the last one. We haven't finished it, but that's my thoughts. Until Dawn still reigns supreme for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately, a person who was never particularly crazy about Until Dawn. I thought it was a fun experience playing it, but I also found it, like, a lot of the elements included within it were really quite annoying and unintentionally funny sometimes. Like, some of the character arcs were... they were comedic, but, like, the fact that they clearly were not intended to be comedic was just a little bit... It takes you out sometimes. I thought like there was a lot of dumb elements to the script. I thought the whole premise behind Rami Malek's character was really predictable and also a little bit stupid. But my biggest problem with these games is not necessarily that; it's the dialogue. The dialogue is just very cringy. Is not the word. It's just off. The dialogue is off. It kind of feels like two AIs speaking to each other, like they kind of watch some videos and they're like, oh, so these are what young humans speak like. And it's just that bothers me a little bit, but overall I still enjoyed the game, and I think it's very fun, especially if you play it with a friend or something like that.
Yes.
But I'm still not over the moon about it, like how so many people seem to adore this game, and I'm just not there. I just like it. So yeah.
I recall so much when you and I when we played an Until Dawn playthrough. We remember. Do you remember that moment where you lose? I think it's Jessica, her name or something. You're playing as Mike, and you just decide to run all the way across to the hospital, or to the asylum or something like that.
Here's, like, on the one hand, I think that's dumb and that takes me out, but on the other hand, that's like comedic gold. Like, it's fucking. It's so brilliant. Funny. Like she just gets lost, or she falls down, I think. And he bursts out of the fucking cabin, like, naked, butt naked, in below zero temperatures with a shotgun, and just, like, running like Terminator after her.
That was great.
And then but even gets better. Like, he falls in a hole somewhere, if I remember, and then he completely forgets about Jessica. He just goes to some hospital somewhere and like crawls around like some ghost, like through the vents and like talking to.
Oh,
but it was funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so besides Until Dawn, of course, they have recently made this trilogy, didn't they?
The Man of Medan. Yeah.
Now, I feel like obviously the reason they're going back to this Until Dawn like game is because they weren't as successful, and I don't have any evidence on hand to say that they aren't, but I think that's the case. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but at least.
So the first two games not successful at all. Most people didn't like them, especially the second one, which was the one, the Man of Medan. Yeah. So
No, that was the first. Sorry
was it the
to
first?
correct
Are
you.
you sure? Yeah.
Man of Medan was first.
The one with the divers.
Yeah, that was the first game.
Okay, so a lot of people really don't like that one.
Yeah.
But apparently it's not because of the theme or anything. The theme is cool, I think. Divers and like treasure and pirates, like that's cool. I think it's just does a bad job at being a good game. Like it has some glaring flaws in terms of gameplay, from what I understood,
Yeah.
and also I haven't played it, but I understood that they kind of tell you what the mystery is from the beginning, so that kind of kills the tension, right? If you know what the monsters are and what the secret is from the beginning.
Yes.
Plus, like they did the whole hallucination thing, which I think is the lamest thing you can do in a horror story, to just say that everything was hallucinated and it was a psychedelic experience that everybody shared.
That's
like,
true.
they,
And
like,
then he woke up.
That's the biggest issue, is that they do a lot of things which are objectively wrong. I think, like in the other game, which was supposed to be like a Silent Hill type thing, every single character was in the dude's head, like it was all made up.
Yep.
And those are some like game ending flaws, but in my opinion. But yeah.
That is something you never do
Yeah.
in writing if you can help it, I think. You never just say the guy just woke up, he had a bad dream.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
just something you don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
in my
so-
opinion, the third game, which we started to play together, and
Yeah.
we didn't finish it, all because we didn't like it. I mean, I liked it, at least. It was because you were having FPS issues. So
Huge issues. Yeah.
I actually liked it from what I played more than Until Dawn. I actually quite liked House of Ashes. I think whilst the writing still had some issues, it was better than in the previous games. The fact that it was adults and not young adults was better, in my opinion. It just made everything more interesting. And yeah, I loved the setting with the temple. The story was quite compelling. I enjoyed it, despite it having some of the same issues the previous games did and not innovating much. I think it was one of the more polished and better versions of this
Yeah,
type
I
of
think
game.
I think that's a fair statement as well. It was quite an interesting thing, the fact, like the location and the
Yeah.
setting and the whole war that was happening
Exactly.
alongside this other this other event that you have these well, I don't know if they're called Wendigos or whatever they're called, but
Yeah.
these blood-sucking vampire things. So, I think what we're trying to do here now is to discuss, in principle, what would make the Quarry an effective game.
Yeah.
And I think what we should do is treat it as if we were creating the Quarry from scratch, so we can put in our ideas.
Yeah, sure.
So, I think that's the best play. Now, let's start with the first thing, which is characters. Let's just jump straight in and let's talk about what characters would you and I put into this game. So, I mentioned to you before we start the podcast, I think tropes are an effective mechanism for these kinds of games because they don't need to be the most clearly well-interpreted characters. They really can just be tropes, as long as they fit a purpose and they're not, the dialogue isn't shite. I think a damsel in distress character is essential. For example, it's essential for these games. It creates humor. It creates a purpose for some of the male antagonists to try to save her from whatever entity or something has got her. Yeah, I think it's very effective. That's why you see Scream and other games that have just movies that have done
Scream
this.
was you see it more for the satire, but
I feel like these games should have satire in.
yeah, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just not crazy about the damsel in distress thing, in my opinion. I think it's kind of lame.
I think it still works.
Yeah. Plus, it kind of changed that. Like, there was a point where damsel in distress was a thing, and then the trope became that the damsel is like no longer in distress. She's like the one that is a fucking kills everyone, which is like equally funny. But
Okay,
yeah.
no. You're building up on my idea here. So, okay, in our game, we have a damsel in distress character, maybe for the first 6 hours or the first 3 hours, but then she's a killer. She's a badass.
yeah,
She just comes out of the closet.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched Death Proof by Tarantino, but I feel like he really
Bits of it.
gets
Bits of
it because he does like this fake out, or not fake out, but this duality thing where they have in the first he basically does the same thing where this group of girls get attacked by this fucking crazy slasher. And the first time, they're like the traditional tropes of like what they would be like kind of, dumb and helpless. And then they do it again, but this time with characters which are competent. And I thought it was cool to have like the duality of that. That was fun. But
I think that's a cool idea, actually. So what should we call our damsel in distress character? Should we give them names? Ashley. It's not a damsel character, is it? Ashley? No. It's got to be like a really it's got to be a really bitchy name, like Chloe or something.
Chloe.
That's our damsel who turns out to be a fucking badass later on. Anyway, so I think tropes are effective. I think you need to have someone. Was it like Mike in Until Dawn, where he's just he becomes like the protagonist at some point, the main character who's going to save everyone. That's what they're going to do in the Quarry. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
And it does the job. I think the most important things to talk about are the psychiatrists. Who the hell? What? How are you going to change and improve upon his role?
They might just not have the psychiatrist this time around.
But they've had it in every other game, right? So they feel like
they've had it in the Man of Medan games. Yeah, but those share those are dark pictures, right? So,
true.
Yeah. I don't know.
And so for me, I mean, the trope thing is irrelevant. What you really need is a great psychiatrist character if you're going to have it, and you need to have compelling location and villains.
Yeah. Location and villains for sure.
Yeah. I have an idea for a villain.
Go ahead.
What about like mimics?
Mimics. Oh, doppelgangers are mimics.
Yeah. What about that? Doppelgangers, sure.
Wait, no.
Doppelgangers.
No, it's an important
yes,
distinction. Do you mean like a creature like the Thing, which can shapeshift to look like to shapeshift to look like the protagonists?
Yeah, I think that's better.
Yeah, that's classic.
Rather than doppelgangers for all of the characters, there's got one thing.
Like the Thing.
I like that.
Yeah, I agree. Like I would.
Yeah.
No game has done that where you have like this thingy which can look like the characters. Like that could add like such a great depth to interactions because maybe like
exactly
it brings the player into this like feeling of paranoia. Like, is this person real right now? And it adds another layer of mystery whilst you're trying to solve the mystery of the environment and the setting. You also have to solve like, am I talking to the real person now? How many things are there? Is there one? Is there two? Could all of them be mimics and I'm alone or something like that?
Well, that's all part of something that you could unravel as you go. Maybe you think and assume there's one based on one prior event, which can happen early, almost as at the outset, and then eventually you realize there's like 10 mimics and everyone's got a mimic partner or something. I don't know. That's one idea.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to
it could go to like so many crazy levels, and like I said, it brings the player into the feeling the Thing was trying to convey, which is like this paranoia, not trusting anyone or anything, nothing is safe, which is really cool. That's a great idea. Yeah. Great.
Thank you. And just to add, Pete, what if the way that your characters die is if you don't realize that they're the mimic?
Yeah.
And then they kill you, like
Yeah. Maybe you have to like kind of trust. Trust certain
you have to choose who you trust.
You have to trust certain characters to achieve certain things. Like maybe you need to get to like this remote location to turn on the power for something. Bad example, but something like that. And you have to kind of pick who goes with you, not only based on their skills, whether you think that they can actually perform the task, but also whether you think that they're a real human that you can trust. Like that adds so much complexity to the game. Yeah.
The only thing I don't understand is how could you introduce this villain to the characters? Are they going to suddenly just encounter this one mimicked person? How is it going to? How are the characters going to understand there is a villain? It's kind of hard with mimics.
Well, the way they did it in The Thing, which was actually so clever, is they did it. The Thing possessed a dog, so basically it was a dog which got sick, and then they put him somewhere in the building to keep him locked away, and then the dog becomes all monstrous, and that's when they figure it out. But I'm not saying you have.
But it's.
I'm not saying you have to do the same. But you can. I mean, you can do One of the characters could be sacrificial, maybe even a character people like, where you actually see them kill him and turn into him and run away, or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably. It's not perfect, is what I think. It's not the most perfect way of it.
Or you can do it like even cooler. You can do it where. Maybe you can do it where these, like in The Thing, where these mimics, they kind of have to like process humans, like human behavior, and they get better as time goes along. And maybe they're just not very like they're not great at it yet. So there's like little hints that you can tell, and maybe that's how you figure it out. you know.
Yeah. And anyway, so you could go 1,000 different ways with
Yeah,
this story.
totally.
It has not been done that
In
often
games,
at all in games.
it's been done in
Yeah.
The Thing, which is a classic, but that only that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So that was my point. And well, with regards to location, I actually don't think you need to be that explorative with your location idea. Like just something. I was about to say something similar to Until Dawn, but that's set out in like the mountains, so it is a bit out there.
No, it's
But
pretty classic.
I think
It's like Cabin in the Woods, right?
I feel like that's what I'm thinking is some sort of cabin.
They are actually doing that in the Quarry. So
Yeah. So
one thing which is interesting about the Quarry in particular is that in the trailer, correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't notice them showing us what the villains are or the monsters.
correct.
I was
going to bring that up.
We just saw people in distress a lot and like running away and being covered in blood, but we don't know what's going on. One thing I find interesting is that his name is David Arquette, by the way. This is the dude from Scream.
That's the guy. Yeah.
He seems like really ragey, like and angry, and like he really wants to get the fuck out of the place, which I thought was bizarre. And it seems like he actually knows something about it, right? There's this line where it says that like scared kids are bad for business, and somebody says it with an evil voice. So maybe the David Arquette guy actually knows about what's going on, and that's why he's trying to leave as quickly as possible and keep them safe. It could be that it's not even monsters. Maybe it's like a hostel type thing, where it's just rich people trapping kids, and then
I actually don't think that's a terrible idea either. Yeah. I think where these kinds of games can fall into a trap is where, in spite of the fact that perhaps the last Dark Pictures game was quite good, the villains really, if you're going to keep going down this supernatural, old, archaic,
you have to do it well, because in a lot of these games, when they like in Until Dawn, I was perfectly happy with the whole Rami Malek character is actually just crazy and he wants to get revenge and he's fucking with people. When they introduced the supernatural aspect, I felt like it didn't organically fit in with the story.
Didn't mesh.
Yeah. It doesn't feel earned. If you're going to do it, you need to build it up properly, so you need to add hints and that kind of thing. Yeah.
What do you think about the psychiatrist thing, then? So my position is this. He adds a lot to the game. He gives you a break from the pressure and the stress, which is something that can be interesting. If written well, you can have like little mini games where I like that in Until Dawn. He would say like, he would put 2 pictures up and you'd have a choice or something, and it probably largely is meaningless to the overall story.
But I like that.
But
I think that's a good idea, and I would like if they lead into that where your choices in that little psychiatrist section actually impact the game. Of course, not to the ridiculous extent where it completely changes the game, but like reasonable enough. Like it actually does change at least maybe what a monster is. Like maybe you can change what the monster looks like or his traits based on that or something like that.
I think that's what they were going for. Or at least that's what I thought they were going for Until Dawn.
They were, but they didn't commit to it, unfortunately.
Didn't commit.
Yeah.
So to just put a label on this, like, for example, one of the first things the psychiatrist asks the player to do is to look at a picture of a barn with a scarecrow outside, and he asks, "How do you feel about looking at it?" And I just felt these are kind of deep philosophical questions as well in there.
Sure.
And I thought they were interesting. Do you feel scared or do you feel happy and excited about it? Whatever it is. I like those things. And if you build upon them...
Yeah, sorry, based on the mimic idea again, sorry to come back, but I just thought about something. Maybe not write out maybe like, okay, by the way, we're no longer really entirely talking about the Quarry because we're talking about like our own...
No. I think we said at the start, we're talking about what we would want to make the Quarry to be.
Yeah,
what we hope it would be. But, it's not really about
we
the Quarry.
Know that I doubt it. I mean, it could be mimic, but I doubt it. But regardless, I'm still going to talk about the idea. One thing they can add later is they can add another game mode where you could have like several players, and one of the players is like the mimic. Like you can do like an Among Us, like a social horror type thing, which would be fun. It would like not like a full but like a little mini game about it would be cool.
A little mini game. Yeah. Maybe you could have everyone sitting in a circle around a campfire and everyone's saying a piece of dialogue and everyone has to vote whether they think they're the mimic. Something like that.
That's a fun thing to add. Yeah.
Maybe you have a wheel and you have loads of dialogue options, and the mimic, his screen, he has loads of shitty options.
Yeah, exactly.
And a couple of good ones. I don't know. You could do something with it.
Yeah.
the psychiatrist, because I just wanted to say,
Yep.
I think it's a sticky one. I'll tell you something really interesting, Pete. When I was doing drama and theatre studies, back in college, we actually did a performance, and I based a psychologist character off of Until Dawn.
How did that go?
And we performed to about 200 parents and other kids that came and watched. But anyway,
Yep.
I feel like that character is compelling, like truly compelling, and fucked up. It's an opportunity just to have some psychopathic person in front of your screen. I love it. It's absolutely fascinating. Again, I'd like to hear what you think the problem is, because I know you're not.
I'm not a fan. I just think it's very over the top acting and like based on like a Bronze Age idea of what mental illness is like and what psychopaths are like. It just seems very substanceless and just ignorant. I don't know. Like I'm not a fan of the type of like over the top. You know, like I'm a wise psychopath and like. Well, did you ever dance in the pale moonlight? Yeah, like, yeah, I'm just not. I mean, I know a lot of.
No, it's true. It's true what you're saying.
A lot of people really like it. I'm just not personally a fan. Although I do think that having a section which is meta, you know, like it's like meta on top of the game. You know, I think
that's good.
I think that's a brilliant idea. I just don't think it should necessarily be a
so what if they in principle, if they adjusted the tone, would that make you more inclined to be okay with a psychiatrist?
But by the way, I'm not like I'm not saying my opinion is more important, because I know a lot of people like it, and that's fine. That's just
I just want us to maybe we can reach a middle ground. What would you say is the adequate tone for this meta character? And maybe it's not a psychiatrist, actually. I don't know, but have you got any thoughts about it?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think it should be more about. That one thing I did like about the whole segment is that the kind of environment is really bizarre and constantly shifting and changing.
Yeah, that's cool.
And things which are supposed to look mundane and normal, there's something wrong about them. And I really like that whole like shifting, closed liminal space. You know, maybe like it starts out like a place that is so mundane that you've been to so many times, and then it changes and becomes more and more like.
What if they did a VHS thing?
That would be really cool too. Oh my god, that just gave me like a great idea. What if like the character is like an action hero? You know, like a VHS old action hero, like I don't know, like.
Go on.
Like a traditional like go lucky like manly action hero, like or like an Elvis or something like that, you know. And you basically talk to them, and they have their own little slang based on the way they talk, and basically this perfect like action hero, as time goes on, also starts becoming more and more like
it gets more decrepit.
Yeah, exactly.
And like falls. Okay, I like that.
Or maybe like you can go a little bit more subtle, where like at the beginning they're like really really heroic. Right. You know, they're really heroic, and they say like really, you know, slapstick humor, and then they become cowardly, and that kind of thing. So yeah.
The meta point should literally just be this. Instead of this disconnected, somewhat psychologist thing, it should actually be two people in a bar having a pint.
Yeah.
And there's like a celebrity there or something, and you're talking to this guy. And maybe every time you go back to it, stuff in the bar changes.
That's so clever, and they could do
right,
and that would also work on a financial level, because the whole Keanu Reeves thing in Cyberpunk really worked well. So maybe you can have another real life celebrity that people like right now, and have them be playing somebody like that. So
Jake Gyllenhaal,
great
whatever,
choice. A great choice though, Jake Gyllenhaal. Like it's a cool idea.
God, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So I'm picturing it. So I'm thinking about what you're saying. This tone shift. It's just two guys talking, but maybe they're talking about the story that you're playing.
Exactly. Or maybe like there's a screenwriter and the director or something like that.
Oh god, that's too. They would never do that though, because it's too risky. I feel like
screenwriter and the director, and like Tarantino is like one of them or something.
Yeah, he's just in the background.
Yeah.
I'm just watching the frame.
Dude, have you ever seen Tarantino talk about movies in an interview? It's like such an entertaining thing to watch.
I've seen quite a few of his interviews. He just kind of just says how it is.
Yeah.
He's very good. I like how when he says about how he has actors he's going to be there. He's not going to be in the fucking next room or whatever, smoking a
Yeah.
cigarette. He's going to be right there with
Yeah.
looking at the frame and stuff. Very passionate, man.
Anyway, that's another great idea for that thing.
So okay, this is just to summarize. We've got like this mimic. Did we decide on location?
We haven't. We
In
actually.
principle.
I feel like that should have been the first thing we decided, but we didn't. Let's
Yeah.
talk about location now.
Okay. You start, because I actually don't have an idea.
Here's the thing: if I were to pick a location, they've already tried it. Madame Medan. I love the whole seafaring island, like diving on, like
Really?
that whole thing. I love it. They screwed it up though, so they're not gonna do it again. So I'm gonna have to think about something else. Yeah.
I have to ask whether you do it any differently, because I really did not like the setting in Madame Medan.
You don't like the setting. I just wouldn't do it so it's completely underwater.
It's too dark. It's too dark and it's too unnatural. I like it to be more grounded into
but no, but I was thinking like actually
place.
like it's not modern either. Like it could be like I don't know, like actually with islands and pirates and that ghost stories, you know, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I would like. Another great setting would be.
What's the appeal of that? I don't get it. What's the appeal of the whole pirates and the ghost stories? I feel like it's again an old classic thing, a horror tale, which is just something that we've all grown past. We've all more like mimics, for example, more technical
Well, you can
ideas
do
of horror.
It's just
now.
well, no, because it's a perfect basis for imagination. Those are just they're foundations. You know, they're not the actual stories. Like you can use this world of pirates and like ghost ships and you know, that kind of thing to tell interesting stories. It's just the foundation. You know, that's all the.
But does it not? I know. I just want to clarify this. Does it not erode the seriousness of the mimic, for example, in our story? Does it not? Because you've got all these ghost stories as well going on.
Anyway, this is not my idea.
You know what I mean?
This is not my idea anyway. This is just what I would have liked before they made Man of Medan. But I was thinking maybe like a like System Shock on a space station. That would be cool.
Space station. God, Christ, you're going out there. Yeah, no, I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna hear your idea out. It's just for me, whenever there's a huge departure from a grounded idea, I have to sit back and think, would I buy that? Would I want to play that? You know, we're talking about two guys in our story, for example. It's two guys in a bar just having a chat. You remember that spaceship? You know?
That was just an example, but like it could work.
Sure. No, sorry.
If it's the director and screenwriter, it can be anything.
True.
Yeah,
that's true.
It could be absolutely anything.
Yeah.
But like also it creates like the opportunity for some pretty cool visuals because a space station, in order to have gravity, is always spinning, right? So you could have this part where where like the light kind of, you know,
yes,
dynamically because it's always spinning and like I said, you can do the whole mundane thing because I imagine a space station in real life it probably looks pretty boring. It's just stacks of like wiring and but you know, you can have it like change as time goes on but the thing with that is that it's been done so many times in games before and movies. We have Aliens and Aliens for that. We have System Shock, so not as original, but yeah.
I've got some vague ideas, but I don't feel comfortable sharing them yet. They're not well thought through. For example, some sort of dystopian theme park.
Ooh, very interesting.
Yeah. It's not really that correct setting for a mimic horror thing. I don't think. I don't know. It's hard. I like your space. I think that we haven't seen supermassive games actually do any futuristic stuff yet. That would be quite.
Plus, I don't want it to be like stupid futuristic.
Grounded, scientific.
Yeah, I would like it to be like grounded, like let's say our capability 30 years into the future, you know? That's
sure.
We can predict that and we can predict what it would look like. It would just be a really big rotating structure in space. And
that's right.
The interior could be anything. The interior could be wild because eventually if tourism is going to be a thing, you can make it like a cruise ship to have like a bunch of shit in it. And that would be so cool, you know? A space station, like a modern one with...
dude, that's it.
A modern one with, like, with clubs or bars and that kind of thing, you know?
That is the best idea I've heard the setting, the location is the very first cruise ship into space.
Yes, man. Yeah, exactly.
And it's got loads of all of these annoying fucking characters. And we're going to be the first rich people in space.
well, yeah, they're all rich because the first one.
And you could get celebrities in there
Yeah,
as well.
and
There's an excuse for that.
Yeah, and the first one is definitely going to be super expensive. So, yeah,
super expensive.
That's a cool idea.
And there's just two guys as a director and a writer, or two guys on a bar just talking about it.
Yeah, and like the way, like they could have different personalities, of course. Like, and the way it starts is that the screenwriter initiates an idea because they're the screenwriter, and then the director, changes it a little bit or works on it. And maybe you
my god, that's so genius.
Yeah, and like maybe at first they're like really friendly and they're creating something cool, but maybe they disagree at one point. And it starts from like really, childish and inoffensive fights, and it gets ugly as time. Like eventually they start fighting and they start screaming and like,
Dude, that is fucking amazing. And I could just imagine them like they're not even talking about a horror concept at the start. They're just talking about this like, look, space is something that's cool. Why don't we make something about that? And like, what about the first cruise ship that will go take all the passengers up? Oh, that's cool. But can you imagine if some like alien thing landed from outer space on the windshield or some shit?
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's such a good idea. Okay, all right. I think we've got. Honestly, I think we just call up Supermassive Games and say, listen, your June 10th, 2022 deadline. Put these ideas in there.
Granted, these ideas, whilst they're awesome, the issue with them is that it does compromise one element of the Supermassive formula, in that Supermassive wants to do really traditional, tropey horror, cabin in the woods, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And this is no longer that, and they can't really keep their same aesthetic that they're going for. But yeah.
Yes, yes, definitely. But fuck that. They really should try to. Maybe we should come to the point now of where we think the Quarry is going to go. What are we expecting?
Here. I think Quarry is going to be a more refined and hopefully
Until Dawn.
An Until Dawn with more depth. That's what I'm hoping from the Quarry, and I'm perfectly fine with that. If your choice,
the only thing I was thinking. Sorry, Pete. I've got to.
Yeah.
No, go on. Finish. Go on. You were saying
I want your choices to matter more, and for there to be more branching paths, and maybe more than one way for each character to die. Just Until Dawn, but more of it and expanded. That's what I would like. But yeah.
Yeah. I think I'd be happy with that. I think the only thing I was worried about is, let's face it, the latest Dark Pictures game they made came out kind of recently. So how long have they been developing this game for? With their whole team or with half of their team? Maybe they've been developing it since Until Dawn. I don't know. If that's the case, they've put a lot of years into it. Maybe we should do some research on that and come back with an answer and an update on that in our next podcast. But I that's my concern, actually. It's just if they're rushing this through development with a very, like, we're not going to really improve upon the formula of what we've got already. We're just going to make it slightly better. I think you'd be disappointed based on what you've just suggested you'd like to see. And I would definitely, compared to our idea, it's just going to be nothing of the sort. So anyway. Yeah.
I don't know. I just hope it's not like a lateral step from Until Dawn. I hope that it's a forward step or an upward.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if it's just Until Dawn with better graphics and a mildly different setting, that's...
I'd still play it. I have to be honest.
I would still play it too. Yeah, but
I'd still happily play it because these games are just fun. They're chill.
But it's just sad because the idea can go like anywhere.
Fuck's sake, dude. We need to write this down and put a copyright of sorts on this idea. We can't copyright ideas.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake.
Yeah.
The Mimic with the passenger spacecraft with a director and a writer. It's so good.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a pleasure to come up with that. That really was.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to discuss? So, I mean, we've discussed characters, we discussed villains, psychiatrists, locations. I can't think of any. I'd have to really sit down and start writing to be able to come up with new ideas for this idea. But anything else in regards to the Quarry? Anything else in regards to?
In regards to the Quarry, I mean, like I said, my biggest issue with the trailer is that some of the writing or dialogue, more specifically, is still a little bit iffy to me. There's that part where like they're talking about, what do they call it? They're talking about like this game, and then the other person is like, do you mean when like a game where people get hunted down? And I don't know, like it just comes across like very, I don't
Uh-huh.
know,
I know.
like
I
with a
know.
clang of a dialogue. It just doesn't really work. But
Yeah.
eventually, like it does become a little bit endearing. But yeah,
It does. It
yeah,
does. Yeah. Uh, uh, the voice acting seems a little strange to me.
yeah,
There's a couple of. There's one particular male voice that
yeah.
is a,
I know
that's.
exactly the one which you're
You
talking
know what one
about.
I'm referring
Yeah,
to. If
it's
you've seen the trailer,
yeah,
you'll know. It's
very
just
very weird. Yeah,
a little bit out of place for. Yeah,
it sounds
we'll
like
see.
it sounds like a gamer. It sounds like the voice a gamer would
It
have
sounds like
when
a gamer.
yeah when streaming. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of sounds like Popeye the Sailor Man as well.
Oh,
I
or
don't
bad.
know.
Yeah.
Popeye the Sailor Man. It just sounds a bit like that. It's a bit weird. Anyway.
Yeah, and also I
Anyway.
hope that there's a like an actual story reason for why David Arquette's character is so ragey and screaming all the time. The
Yep.
the main
Yep.
guy in charge of the summer camp or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like really angry and says, "We need to leave now," and like all of that, and like it like I
Makes you
just
wonder why they're there in the first place.
well, it's a summer
Well,
camp,
if you
right? They were just
so they just went there to enjoy themselves, etc., and then we got to leave now. What's the urgency?
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like I assume that the David Arquette's character knows something about the mythology of the place or the creatures or something.
Oh God, that's where I get turned off. Sorry.
Why?
Can we go back? I don't know if we've got the time, Pete. How long have we been going for?
We have
Do we have the time?
we haven't been going on for long.
Okay. Can we go back to your hostel idea? Because we kind of went over it, but in all honesty, it's not a terrible idea for
36
one of these
minutes.
games. Cool. I don't think you'd ever get a publisher or slash developer to commit to a torture related thing. But what do you think?
I think
What do you
it's
think about
you've already said it.
Tread lightly.
I mean you've already nailed it when you said that they wouldn't commit to it. There was a period in time in the early 2000s when everything was super fucking edgy. People wore like metal chokers and like had black nails and like everything.
Yep.
Everybody was like super punk and edgy, and suddenly people were really into these types of dark, tortury ideas. And that's about the time when vampires became a thing too. Like the way we. Anyway, point is, there was a time when games like Manhunt came out. Remember Manhunt? Rockstar.
I do.
Yeah, and they were like this whole idea of snuff films and like rich people torturing kids, and that came along, and it didn't work. Or I mean, like people played it, but like it didn't have massive success, and then no publisher wanted to make it anymore, and the idea just died, and we never saw it again. And I
Yeah.
don't think that's coming back anytime soon. But I think it's cool, especially the first Manhunt film. How it was like you were like making a snuff film, and you were like this criminal, like this murderer, and you were being forced to do things like a rat, and it's interesting. Plus, I think the whole idea in Hostel is a pertinent one. Like, there's a point when you have so much money that you've experienced everything that the world is boring, and you are in search of newer highs.
I think also if you have, as you said, you're such a rich, high status individual, and maybe you build some contempt because you just can't find any further status or
Yeah.
riches.
I think it's just like you've experienced everything there is to experience almost, and you need something new, and the new is taboo, pretty much. And I think that's an interesting idea. The issue with that is that I think in order for it to be good, the villains, which are the rich people, they shouldn't be cartoonish. There should be a little bit of like depth to where you can kind of like understand where they're coming from, because that makes it even more twisted.
Yeah, it's hard to do that.
It's hard to
That's
do.
like that's a fine line to cross, and you need to have very good writing,
And
I imagine.
like torture porn is like it's torture porn. Like it's not as popular now as it was, but there was a point where it was like the thing. But I think it could be cool. I don't know. Yeah.
It's just the other thing is it doesn't really make horror, does it? I don't know. It kind of turns into a slasher at some point where they're trying to chase to catch the guy or something like that
But
to
I feel
then
like
torture
all
them.
of the supermassive games are more slasher than horror. No.
And jump scares is what they mainly use, is it not? As well, would you say?
Yeah, but I mean, like the slasher is the
Yeah,
slasher
no.
genre. But...
At least Until Dawn is quite heavily a slasher.
Yeah,
there's a guy always lurking in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Man of Medan is not Man of Medan. Sorry, House of Ashes is not a slasher. It's
not a slasher.
creature.
That's more
a creature. Yeah, but
creature based. What is that middle one called? That is the one with the guy who's in
I know what you're talking.
Bandersnatch.
The one who is imagining everything. It's like the Silent Hill copy.
He's in
Bandersnatch. Is it
Bandersnatch.
called Little Nightmares or no?
Little Hope. Little Hope.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
That's the one. I actually thought that one looked the best to me.
That one is conceptually the best because it uses like a Silent Hill type thing, that's basically a license to be creative. It's just that the ending where he is just imagining everything and all of that, that's just, it really ruins it makes the whole experience feel like there was no point to it, and you don't want that.
Yeah. I wouldn't even finish the game if that was the case. I just leave it.
Yeah.
At some point, die or whatever. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, the torture thing. I mean, there's not really an argument for it to be that over something like the Mimics. Really, is there?
No.
Would you say?
No, the Mimics are definitely better. I'm just saying that I am quite certain that that's not in the Quarry. So.
Yeah, that would be wildly shocking if they actually went down a torture route. Do you think there's a chance we'll be surprised in this game? I don't think so.
No, I don't think there'll be anything surprising.
No. Okay.
I do hope that it's just more polished, at least, and I'm sure it'll be fun.
As we said, still enjoy it.
Yeah.
Still be good. But this is, I guess, our letter to Supermassive to think about branching out, perhaps. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.